I want to read from my book, The Honey of Earth, which came out last year. I'm going to read a poem that is about one of the many dumb things I've done in my life. And that was I had an opportunity to hear Duke Ellington on one of his final tours before he died. And I decided, nah, that's old-fashioned music. I don't need to do that. So a number of years later, I realized what a dumb thing that had been. And of course, now I'm a big fan of Duke Ellington. Anyway, this is takes me back to my college days. It's called Pale Blues, the night I skipped Duke Ellington. The suave one, already sick and months away from death, would have loved me madly had I shown, even in my silly bell-bottoms, my scruffy parka, my contempt for an elegance forged from more than a white tuxedo. Johnny Hodges and Billy Strayhorn, dead. Ben Webster, long gone. It was nothing like the glitter of 1941. But no matter. Had it been the Cotton Club and not icy New Hampshire, I wouldn't have heard a thing. I lounged in my room no more than 100 yards from the theater, amped up on some pale boy blues long melted from my mind, like the flurries crossing my sill that night 40 years ago. Had I shown, he might have hit a riff, though, to lift even me a few inches out of my seat, some chord so blue I could taste it. But I knew without knowing in those days. I was the star, the moon, the wheeling night above Smart's mountain. I did not need that dapper genius showing me anything about the music of the spheres. Walking to the snack bar later, I saw the tour bus, grumbling in winter air, stooped black men loading instrument cases, and I did not pause to see if I might recognize his weary face, those famous sagging eyes, or if perhaps he was already racing in a solo car down I-91, the gig well gone from his mind, some scrap of new rhythm seeming to some scrap of new rhythm seeming to rise from the drone of tires, the tiny squeal of wind in the side vents. Yeah, when I was young, of course, Duke Ellington and Benny Goodman and all those guys were my parents' music, and I had nothing to do with it. And a number of years later, I had a chance to see Benny Goodman, and that time I was ready, so I went to see him, and he was terrible. I mean, he was very old, and he hardly played at all, and I loved the concert. I just kept thinking, I'm in the same room with Benny Goodman, and he's playing his clarinet. So I slightly made up for it that way. Anyway, thanks for listening.